So you've probably heard of the Mothman, but have you ever heard of the Van Meter monster? Well, our story begins back in 1903. The city of Van Meter in Iowa experienced an incredible phenomenon. One October night, when the townspeople were outside, they saw a creature, and it was huge, and it was flying across the buildings. So they all ran inside. They were terrified because they didn't know what it was. It was so huge, and they said that its wings looked leather-like. It didn't look like it had feathers, but it was so huge. They said it was about 8 feet tall. So that first sighting happened about 1 a.m., but there were many townspeople out because it happened right in the middle of a busy city in front of hundreds of people. So there were a lot of credible people to say that they also saw it. On the second night, a bank teller and a doctor both reported seeing the beast. They also saw it flying across the buildings, and then it started flying from building to building. And when it came down, they were terrified. But they saw when it landed, they described it as hopping like a kangaroo, but it had to be about 8 feet tall. It was a winged creature, and they said it had leathery skin like a pterodactyl. But it had a horn on its head that actually shot out a beam of light, and it would disorient the people that saw it because it would blind them. They also said there was like a very awful stench when it was flying by. One of the people that saw it was living in the district, and he said that he woke up to a shining bright light shining through his window. So he lived on one of the higher buildings. So he said that light was shining at him, and he thought, who is shining this light at me? So he went to go look, and he saw this shadow like hopping to the other rooftops, and then it disappeared into the night. Now the town doctor, Dr. Alcott, he was sleeping above his office in his own room that he had above the office. And he was also woken up by the bright light shining through the window. And he thought, who could be shining this bright light? And he actually went out there to confront the person. He actually took his gun with him, and he went out there to go see who's shining this light. Like, could it be a burglar? And when he went out there, he described it as a human-like creature with bat wings with a horn on its head. And the light was protruding from the horn. It was shining out from the horn, and it was blinding him. And here he was with his gun in his hand. So what did he do? Out of terror, he started shooting at it. And he says he got a hit. He shot it 5 times, but it seemed to act like it didn't even bother it at all. Getting shot 5 times, this creature still flew away. So the bank teller's story, Mr. Dunn, he heard about it. So he decided to stay up all night with his gun in his hand. He wanted to catch this creature. He wasn't like messing around. He wanted to see, is this thing real? What is it? And he was going to shoot it down. Imagine his terror. His attention wasn't brought on by a blinding light. He heard a strangling sound. So he went to the door to go investigate, and he was met with the blinding light right in his face when he opened the door. And he ran into the bank, but he could see it through the window. So as soon as the light lit up a little bit and he could kind of see, he shot through the window and he shot it. But just like when the doctor shot it, the bullets had no effect on it. So the next morning, he went to go look around, and he saw the footprints. Clarence Dunn actually took like a mold craft of the footprints to show everybody what the footprints looked like and how big they were. Now he claims the footprints had like 3 toes. It looked like 3 toes on each footprint. Now whatever this creature was, it didn't seem to be afraid of the townspeople. It didn't seem to be afraid of getting shot at, because the next night he was seen by a local hardware store owner. The hardware store owner had closed up, and he was going home for the night when he saw it perched up on top of a telephone pole, and it was asleep. Like, it didn't even care that there it was, that it could be seen. So being afraid, and everyone carrying a gun because they knew there was a creature out there, he started shooting at it too. And the creature didn't even fly away. He said that it just turned, like it just didn't even care, and it let off an awful stench. It kind of makes me feel like, what, like a skunk? So the sound of the shooting brought out another witness, and they both saw it. After a few moments, it flew away, and they saw it fly in the direction of an old abandoned mine shaft near town. So they thought, that must be where it's going. That must be where it's coming from. So after a few nights of terror, the townspeople decided they needed to do something about it. So they gathered a group to go hunt it down. Now they knew it was going to the abandoned mine shaft. So they gathered a group and they went over there with their guns. They were tired of being terrified by this creature that looked like a pterodactyl flying around at night. So there were the townspeople, all geared up and at the abandoned mine, when they started to hear noises coming out of the abandoned shaft of the mine. And what did they see? They didn't see just one creature. There was another one that was a little bit smaller. Now, try as they might, they started shooting at them, but the creatures just flew away. So they thought, well, what are we gonna do? I mean, they took off. So what they decided to do was stay there. Just stay there and wait, because they knew the creatures had to come back. Where else were they gonna go? Where else could they hide? So they stayed there for 2 nights. The second night, the creatures came back and they opened fire on them. They said that they must have shot at them and they must have hit them like 100 times, but they didn't die. They just went back into the mine shaft. So since they knew that these creatures were not dying by bullets, they decided they could do nothing else but brick up the mine and just seal it shut so that they could never come out again. That was the last time they were ever seen, when they crawled back into the mine shaft and they were sealed in by the townspeople. So guess what? In the 1980s, there was another sighting. There was a man who moved to the area and he had never heard the story before, but he was near the coal mines and he saw a 5-foot tall bat-like creature. In the 2000s, a man and his family were driving near the coal mines and they saw what looked like a dead giant bird on the side of the road, just a huge creature. So they turned around to go back to look, but when they came back, it wasn't there anymore, it was gone. In 2006, it was a pastor that saw a creature flying in the sky. He described it as a dragon. He had never heard of it before. So when he looked it up, he saw the picture of it and he thought, wow, that really looks like what I saw. To him, he thought it looked like a dragon. In 2014, it was spotted by a couple that was camping near that city of Iowa. Now in 2020, someone reported seeing a huge creature. And what they said was that they would see like the shadow and the wings. They said that they would see light and then dark, light and then dark as the wings were flying over. And to this day, it's still a mystery. No one has ever captured it. And no one has ever killed it. So we don't have a body of the creature. So it still remains a mystery. Is this creature still out there? Is it still trapped? Why are people still seeing similar creatures near that same area? So believe it or not, but if you want to be careful, you want to stay safe, you best get superstitious. Peace.